Wonderful. All right. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. Work smarter to build workout plans, whether it's going to be at home, whether it's going to be in the gym. We're going to be talking about all that today. Again, I'm Colin Meidel. I'm the manager of LOL Fit here at the Land O'Lakes headquarters. All right, so we can dive right in. So our overview, we're going to be talking about strategies for building strength, flexibility, endurance, talking a little bit about goal setting, how you can prioritize and personalize your own workout programs, how to avoid common mistakes, and other kind of tips I use, at least when I'm coaching or programming people here myself. Starting off, so SMART goals. I guess one thing to mention, if you have any other personalized questions, feel free to either put them in the chat, raise your hand, or I will save a bit of time at the end for you to ask those questions so that we can kind of cover them to make sure you really get everything out of the webinar that you are interested in learning. So starting off, goals. Goals are going to be extremely important here, as when I'm working with someone, or what I encourage you to do with yourself. And actually, if you have, I guess, pull up another sheet on my computer, pull up your phone, notes tab, just take a couple notes, write some things down, but also write down right away, or just think about throughout this webinar, what are your main goals and how does physical activity align within them? Because this will truly dictate how you navigate creating a personalized exercise program. If you are someone who wants to focus more on building your body strength, that's going to be something different than if you want to focus on muscle endurance. Or maybe I have a history of heart issues with my family. I really want to prioritize cardio. Your goals solely are going to dictate programming, whether it comes to sets and reps or time devoted to different areas of our health and wellness. So that's an important place to start. So think about your goals. How I like to approach that is start down by writing down your why. Why do I want to do this? Why is this worth my time? What do I want to get out of it? So find the why. That's a crucial area. And you can take that outside of physical activity, but we're going to obviously focus just on physical activity here today. After that, write down how you would feel if you were more fit and active, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, and maybe you're at a point where you've never experienced the benefits of physical activity and you were unsure of them, and that's okay. It's just really meet yourself where you're at when you're creating these goals, because that will, again, solely dictate how you navigate creating a exercise program. And then you want to make the goals SMART. So you want to make sure that they are specific. They should be achievable. So they're SMART goals. So S, that's going to be for specific. Can I specifically list out what this goal is? Make sure it's measurable so that it is achievable, it's relevant, it's time bound. Your goals have to be realistic. They have to have some sort of time component to them. That way you either, if you need extra accountability, whether it's from me or someone else, you're on a plan and you can navigate that. And that's exactly the same approach you take with a exercise program. Also, it's important to talk about the steps to implement that plan, the barriers, and the support needed to make sure we stay consistent. All right, so I know this is a little bit out of order from the overview. I switched it off just last minute because I thought this would be a good place to put it in there. But avoid common mistakes and effective exercises. So I want to talk a little bit about the breakdown of the body first before we go into how that actually applies to a routine. Starting off, if there's one takeaway, I want it to be this first bullet point right here: 3 pillars of movement. This is something that I phrase and have been rocking with for a little while now, and I am super happy about it. So 3 pillars of movement. I believe in any exercise, whether it is working our upper body, lower body, our core, a combination of those, or if we are gardening, lifting a laundry basket, grabbing groceries, there are 3 pillars of our body that we need to focus on in terms of form. Yes, there's other little areas, but the overarching theme is your 3 pillars. We have our stance, you have your hips, and you have your shoulders. Those make up the 3 pillars. So always plant the stance, have that be stable. It might not always be stationary if we're doing, for example, a burpee, a jump squat, mountain climber. Your stance may be mobile, but the stance is going to be the foundation of our movement. So plant our stance. The next pillar, number 2, is going to be the hips. That's going to be engagement of the core. So think about shifting our hips up, rotating our belly button up to our chin to our spine to make sure our core or abdomen stays thoroughly engaged. That's going to help prevent any lower back pain or prevent any lower back injuries. The third pillar is going to be those shoulders. working on scapular retractions, the ability to set, I guess kind of hard with my black shirt, but set my shoulders, especially within the corporate, the desk job world. We kind of have the pterodactyl look at times. We don't focus on our posture where the shoulders kind of round forward. We might elongate the neck as we're looking at our computer screen, and we might take that into our exercise, or again, functional movement, whether we go and we chop a Christmas tree down and I'm grabbing that. So we have to make sure that we focus on those three pillars: plant the stance, engage the core, set the shoulders. I know I see some of you who have taken my group fitness classes here, and I assume you're nodding your head with that, because I will always say that in every one of my classes, because those are the three main pillars or the foundation of any exercise and movement. All right, breaking down into the other areas of our body. In our upper body, core's kind of included in there, but I'm really kind of thinking midsection up. So chest, back, and shoulders. When we are creating a form of exercise programming, pretty much everything within the upper, lower, and core, those are the three quadrants where we want to focus on when we're creating a program. Now we'll get to the timing and how we kind of lay it out later, but these three need to be in the program. Whether we're working out 1 day a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, we have to make sure we're allocating our time properly to all these major muscle groups. I have them listed out here. We have our chest, back, and shoulders for the upper portion of our body. Yes, there are going to be different muscle fibers in each. So for example, I kind of have three quads in my chest. I have more of my upper chest, mid chest, at the bottom of my pec. For my back, I have my lats, more of the mid back, my rhomboids, my traps. But for this, I really just kind of broke them down into main sections, and then we can talk about exercise selection a little bit later. So make sure in our program that we always include some aspect of every one of those quadrants. That's for the upper. For our lower, that breaks into our quad, or the front of our legs, the hamstring, the back of our thigh, our glutes, so our butt muscle. There's the glute med, the glute max sitting on the back, glute med on the side. We have our hip abductors and adductors, so kind of inner thigh, outer thigh, and then our calf, which kind of makes up the whole lower body. The only thing adding on there is going to be making sure we have our core. Core's broken down into three major segments. We have our rectus abdominis, we have our transverse abdominis, and then the internal and external obliques. All in all, pretty much what that's going to is making sure that when we select core exercises, we have more than say like one crunch variation, so that we are actively twisting our torso to engage those internal external obliques, or the transverse abdominis is it almost makes a corset across our body as it connects and supports our spine, and the core. I won't specifically talk about sports specific, but that will matter. Also, exercise selection matters. Again, it's all about going back to that goal. What do I prioritize in my life? What exercises or other activities do I want to do? If I'm just focusing on functional movement, that plan's going to look a lot different than someone who really is prioritizing their golf swing, or prioritizing their, if you say football, for example. Those are very two. Specifically, if you are prioritizing more football, rugby, or a contact sport, we're going to want to make sure that our core or our spine is almost immobile. So it's a strong foundation, isometric movements where we're holding, building strength, over if someone is, say, a golfer. We're working on our golf swing. That's all thoracic rotation through the back. So I want to make sure that we're very mobile through the midsection. So I would not have someone back squat if you're really big into golfing, because that can pack the spine, helps build structure and stability. So again, think of your why, think of your goals. Otherwise, when effective exercises, you can always make combinations or full body movements, again, depending on the style you want to get into. We'll probably jump back to this slide specifically in a while, but moving on for now. So what experts say, these are the basic guidelines for more strength and cardio by the ACSM, so the American College of Sports Medicine. When you're looking at cardio, so that's going to be for our heart, for our lungs, the heart's ability to, our VO2 max, the ability for our heart to transfer oxygenated blood throughout the body. The minimum recommendation to kind of hit the recommended values is 75 minutes of vigorous activity and or a mix of 150 minutes of moderate activity. And those are going to be determined by our heart rate. So if our heart rate is between 50 to 60 or 65% of our max heart rate, that's going to be within that moderate aerobic activity. So we're able to hold a conversation with someone. There's light breathing, light perspiration. We're sweating a little bit, but it's all in all not super tense, though the heart is elevated. So think about it like a brisk walk. As we start jogging, pushing our heart rate closer up to 65, maybe 70%, we're starting to get closer to that vigorous activity level where it's now harder to hold a conversation, or with true vigorous, we cannot hold the conversation. We'd be kind of gasping for breath. And that gets our heart rate close to 75 to 85, or all the way up to like 95% of your max heart rate. And that's going to be the recommendation for cardio. So a mix of that, again, as the minimum value. For strength training, recommendation is try to fit in 2 to 4 days a week, covering all those major muscle groups, being, again, our upper body of the 3 regions, our chest, shoulder, back, our legs within kind of the 4 quadrants, as well as our core. Now, also adding in there to our programming is focusing on balance and stretching and the importance of that. So we'll start with stretching. For stretching, programming, it can be very flexible. If we want to prioritize our mobility, our flexibility, which does decrease as we age, maybe we want to fit in 10 to 15 minutes or even 5 to 15 minutes a day of doing mobility stretches. Or we can solely just try to get our mobility time in right around our warm-up, focusing on dynamic first, which is going to be incorporating more rhythmic type exercises, leg swings, arm circles, walking lunges, bodyweight squats, incline push-ups, where we're actively working our joints in a mobile capacity. And then dynamic, think of that as more mobility. Static is more flexibility, where we're trying to actively increase or put pressure on a range of motion to increase our mobility, increase our range of motion. And that happens by holding specific stretches. So for example, here's a shoulder stretch for 15 to 60 seconds. And you want to make sure you're pushing to mild discomfort when you're focusing on your flexibility, your mobility. If I hold a position, say I bring my arm to right here, it's not going to really stretch anything. I'm not really going to see any flexibility benefits, versus if I really push my arm to a point where you are experiencing mild discomfort. All right, the recommendation for frequency here and balance and stretching are going to be the same. You're going to aim to stretch, focus on balance 2 to 3 times per week. You can do daily stretching or balance is really beneficial, especially if you're trying to prioritize your flexibility. And for your focus areas, duration, 15 to 30 seconds, but really you can take that up to 60 seconds or even more. And then you can repeat it either 1 time up to 4 times for each major muscle group. And then your focus areas, anything that's commonly tight, typically, though, think about areas that have joints, which is pretty much the whole body, but our hamstrings, our shoulders, our neck, those are areas, especially for desk workers, that we really want to prioritize as immobility, or the sedentary, more desk lifestyle could potentially have negative effects, especially if we don't focus on our posture or the ability to, again, scapular retraction. If our shoulders are super tight and pulled forward, because our chest is kind of shrinking and pulling itself, the back is elongating, we don't have the ability to retract our shoulders, will have a negative impact on our overall life, as well as when we exercise. And balance is going to be the exact same thing. And then also I encourage focusing on breathing during, exercise, but also stretching as well, focusing on nice deep breaths in through the nose, fill up that stomach with air. Don't think about filling up the chest with air, but the stomach, so deep diaphragmatic breathing, and take that into your exercise as well. Okay, so now as we jump into how do we navigate or even start considering finding time or allocating time into a proper exercise program or plan for myself. So the FIT principle, we're looking at frequency, intensity, time, and type. I encourage you to either kind of write out a little box or kind of make the Monday through Sunday, so we can kind of try to approach that a little bit. So start off with that frequency. You want to find out how often or how many days a week am I going to be doing something. Now, we want to consider those guidelines, which I just showed you on a couple pages prior, where for our cardio, it's that minute threshold of 75 vigorous and or 150 moderate. But otherwise, you can break that into, think 3 to 5 days a week for general fitness, 5 to 7 days a week for improved cardiovascular health, of course, depending on intensity and your goals. And then for strength training, 2 to 4 days a week. Flexibility and stretching, 3 to 4 times per week is what would be optimal. So we take those guidelines and now we spit them into something that is realistic, because trying to meet something that's unrealistic is ultimately going to lead to failure. And consistency is where we see that progress. It's less about how optimal your plan is. That's another big takeaway, is programming as it breaks down to it is fairly simple. What can I consistently uphold myself to continuously do, for which in that case I will see progress? So think about that. Look at your goals, think of the why, and now we're looking at how we can allocate our time properly. For cardio sessions or gym sessions at all, I recommend each of those sessions be kind of a minimum of 10 minutes, especially for our cardio. It's really hard to receive those benefits if our heart rate is not sustained for under 10 minutes. So 10 minutes or more for these sessions is kind of what we're trying to plan in there. So frequency, think about what are my goals? How often can I keep myself active? If you are really struggling on where to start, even one day is better than nothing, or 2 to 3 days, 15 minutes, and then gradually that bumps to 20, gradually that bumps to 30 minutes. Otherwise, my personal gold standard or basic recommendation, 2 to 3 days a week, 30 to 60 minutes. That's going to be the gold standard. If we can reach that, implement that, we're good to go. So that's going to be our frequency. Next, we're looking at our intensity. Oh yeah, I guess for that frequency, feel free to kind of jot down, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. With a frequency tip, use our calendar. We in the corporate world use our calendars all the time. It's built into our normal routine. Make a personalized life calendar as well, whether it's on our work calendar or a separate calendar, but actively plan out our exercise sessions. Block our time off on our calendar, whether it's in the morning, middle of the day, night. I know especially here in Land Lakes, there is a great encouragement of exercise. So even if you pop down or hop off for a little self break meeting for 30 minutes to try to get your exercise in, that is highly encouraged. I don't think I've really heard of any manager not prioritizing that. So that's wonderful. So that's frequency. Next, we're looking at the intensity. So how hard, how challenging, how intense should this exercise be? That again, that falls back to our goals. We need to make sure that we're also prioritizing. It's a workout. It is meant to be challenging. If we want to see progress, we need to be pushing ourselves, but it doesn't mean we have to go all or nothing. That's not true whatsoever. So consider how hard you're going to push yourself during your exercise. Intensity is going to be measured in a variety of ways, depending on the type of exercise. If it's cardio, typically that's going to be the heart rate. So is it moderate? Is it vigorous? How can I hold the conversation? Can I not? That's really what determines if it's moderate or vigorous. For our strength training, the intensity is typically going to be based off how much weight we're using, how difficult the exercise feels, and how much rest time we are allocating to each lift or in between every set. And then for flexibility, the intensity is just going to be how deep of a stretch, how long do you hold that position. For guidelines for your intensity, I recommend that this should solely be tailored to your fitness level. So as beginners, start off with moderate intensity, gradually increasing that. So even if you walk into a fitness center or start with body weight exercises, so just a body weight squat, an incline push-up on the wall, and then gradually I grab my water bottle, or I grab a milk jug, or again, if I have dumbbells, it's a little bit different, but then you slowly, and it's okay to start slow. Even if we set that dedicated time, we make that frequency, we get into a habit, even if it doesn't feel like it is really challenging us or working us, that's okay. We're still going through the motions of creating that plan, creating that habit, and that will sustain us a long time. So beginners, start with moderate, increase it over time as we listen to our body. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here. For more advanced people who are within the gym world a little bit longer, aim for higher intensity with different variations of heavier weights, a faster pace, or more repetitions, depending again solely on your programming. When it comes to time, how long, this is going to be the duration of our exercise or how long we perform it. I recommend, so again, cardio minimum 10 minutes, ideally 20 to 60 minutes, depending on the intensity. If it's moderate, 30 to 60 minutes. If it's vigorous, 20 to 30 minutes. It's harder to sustain a very vigorous pace for a long time. That's why if we do want more of that vigorous pool, it might be 3 workouts of 25 minutes long, versus at a moderate intensity, we can sustain that, comfortably much longer. For strength training, anywhere between 20 to 60 minutes for our time threshold. And this is depending on the number of sets, the repetitions, and the rest between each exercise. Flexibility, 10 to 15 minutes usually is what I would recommend here. And this can be, again, vary based on the type of stretching. The overall goal is to over time increase our duration of our workouts as our stamina improves, whether that's strength, whether that's endurance. We're slowly trying to increase them until we get, well, again, it depends on our goals, but anywhere between 60 to an hour and a half, that's plenty, if not more than what we really need. You can truly achieve a lot with not a whole lot of time. All right, type. So that's going to be what kind? Is it aerobic? Is it resistance? The type of exercise we're doing based on our goals, strength training, endurance training, flexibility, balance, whatever it is. That's solely, again, find your goals. That's where navigate how you actually program. So again, for that type, if it is cardio, it might be running, cycling, swimming, brisk walking. If it's strength training, this could be bodyweight exercises, weightlifting, resistance bands. If it is more flexibility, that might be yoga, Pilates, stretching exercises, and then balance, something like Tai Chi, a stability ball workout. Balance focused workouts. The overall goal of the type is going to be, again, incorporating a variety of types. So we're more of a well-rounded functional person, to help improve our overall fitness and reduce boredom and overuse, because that could potentially avoid injuries then. Okay, so that's a good layout of how we approach creating our program. Now coming to the actual exercise order. So think about how many days a week are we doing that? That's the frequency. When we go to the individual exercise within the intensity, refer back to your goals. So a couple options here. If we are fitting in cardio and strength training at the same time, then where's our goals putting us in what direction? Is aerobic training followed by resistance training, or is resistance training followed by aerobics training? This is solely goal-based. I do have my personal preferences, but at the end of the day, where are you trying to prioritize? If I really want to prioritize my cardiovascular health and fitness, whether I'm working on, so say myself personally, I have a 100-mile bike ride coming up next month. So I'm doing a little more cardio than strength right now because I want to push myself in that direction. If you're lifting for overall health and wellness, personally, I recommend starting with resistance training followed by aerobic training. I would prefer that you work on your muscle strength, followed by aerobic intensity, so that we can really focus on the form, really focus on it, pushing ourselves with high intensity to stress those muscles, to increase our muscle mass, especially as we age, to help with our bone density, and then burn what energy we have left in the tank on aerobic training. Otherwise, it solely comes down to a personal preference. But if you're looking for a coach's guide, I recommend option 2 if you really have no preference or goals to decide which way you differ. Okay, so regardless of what you pick, now we're going into the resistance activity order. There's kind of a lot of options here. This also goes to personal preference or programming, so feel free to try them out. I am a big advocate of, so within these categories, start with option A. So regardless of how we navigate it, start with our large muscles before we go to smaller muscles. Large muscles being kind of the big 5. We have our chest, shoulders, back, quads, and hamstrings. Those are really the big 5. You can kind of throw glutes in there as well, but they get worked in some of the biasing exercises of quads and hamstrings. So those are the big 5. Prioritize those large muscle groups. Then we jump into the accessory works, which is our forearms, our grip strength, our biceps, our triceps, our calves, our hip abductors, our adductors, core. I guess I kind of put that as a big one too. So start with the small muscles, work to the smaller muscles. Think about multi-joint movements. So if I'm doing a chest press, for example, I'm making sure as I push, it's a multi-joint movement. So it's working my shoulder, it's working my elbow. So I'm going to start with that as a bigger compound lift versus if I'm doing a bicep curl, I'm just using one joint. So multi-joint exercises. working into more of the single joint or the accessory work. Creating your programming, again, it comes down to choice and preference, but you can have upper versus lower. So I have a full upper body day, full lower body day. If I'm doing so if you can only work out 2 times a week, I recommend 2 options. One, upper lower, or a combination of a full body. Again, it depends on how we can schedule and where we can put our time. So if I am working out, say I only can come into the fitness center, LL Fit here, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, because that's when I'm in the office. I would recommend personally having upper body day on Wednesday, and then Thursday, or I guess Tuesday, Wednesday. So upper body day on Tuesday, Wednesday being lower body day. But if I'm working out on Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, maybe I'm going to do a full body day focused on chest, triceps, and quads on Tuesday, and then Friday I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do back, rear delts, so back traps region, and then hamstrings, and a bit of glute work on both days. So it really comes down to personal preference. As long as we hit all of those big 5, and then the accessory guys as well, that's how you navigate programming. So that can be upper versus lower. That can be push versus pull. So for example, my chest is a pusher, my triceps are a pusher, my triceps are a pusher, and then my quads are a pusher as well. So that's why when I said I'm kind of upper or full body 1, full body 2, I kind of label it pushers versus pullers, back, hamstring being some of the pullers. And then kind of another option is resistance activities with aerobic activities. So you can kind of do a hybrid boot camp style, HIIT style, solely depending on what your goal is. I would say if you're just lifting for functional fitness and general health guidelines, I personally recommend prioritize strength training, then cardio. It's really, really important that we increase or maintain muscle mass and bone density, especially as we age. And specifically for women. And cardio is fantastic. HIIT workouts are fantastic. Pilates, yoga, all fantastic because we're moving, and that's wonderful. But if you really want to see benefits to our overall body, potentially a body recomposition where we kind of switch out body fat mass for muscle mass, that's going to come more so from strength training, which is why it's all goal-based. Okay, now we kind of have thought a little bit about that. So when you're looking at your notebook in front of you, think about what days am I free to exercise? How long do I have the exercise? And then we're just going to fit those in, whether it's somewhere between, all we need is really 20 minutes. We can even work with 15 minutes 2 times a week. That's great if that's all we have. Now, one thing to mention is you might have to redefine what your exercise looks like. So say myself, I only can work out 2 days a week for 20 minutes. It's like, okay, well, what do I focus on? Because I have to do cardio, I have to do HIIT, strength, stretching, balance. It's like, I can't fit all that into 20 minutes, Colin, because you gave me the minute recommendations for all. That's where the goals orient how we approach that. I personally, if that's the case with someone, I would recommend that they prioritize maybe 1 day of strength, 1 day of cardio, or both of those 20-minute sessions are going to be focused on strength, because working with weight is really, really beneficial. And then we're gonna have to get minutes elsewhere, whether it is I focus on walking or steps, where I take 3 10-minute walking breaks throughout the day, or I get up at 7 a.m. Whenever I get up, I go for a 10-minute walk before. Or maybe I eat breakfast, go for a walk. I have lunch, go for a walk. I have dinner, go for a walk. And then that's going towards our moderate pool of intensity for our cardiovascular health. Maybe on the weekend I go for a longer walk, a hike, a bike ride. But I'm also then still having the strength sessions, which are harder to make up by just doing odd and things. So think about that. Then we're looking at actually building out our workouts. Start our workout with a warm-up. This is anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes. I always recommend a workout. I think my sweet spot is 10 minutes if we can have it. If we're really in a time crunch, 3 to 5 minutes, but still, push for 7. Really try to allocate time to a warm-up if possible. That's going to be dynamic exercises. So that's going to help prepare our body and our muscles to work out, get our heart rate up, increase our heart rate, warm up our body. So walking, jogging, biking, squats, lunges, jumping jacks, anything rhythmic, dancing, perfect. It's a warm up. During the exercise, start with large to small muscles. Make sure we exercise each major muscle group over the course of our entire program. Depends on our training program. And we really want to create overall balance. If you really start getting, I'm not sure we do, but if we have any very high level people within this call today, your workout plan is going to be a lot different than someone just starting out. If you are a bodybuilder, a power lifter, our program, our exercise selection is going to be very different because we're focusing on very different things, very small, minute areas. But for the general public, just incorporate all those 5 major body groups. And now I do cut out accessories, bicep, tricep, because they will be worked every time I do a chest press or a push-up. My triceps are being worked. Every time I do an assisted pull-up or a mid-row lat pull-down, my biceps are getting a little bit of work. They're not fully being stressed or isolated, but if we don't have enough time to prioritize everything, prioritize those 5 main muscle groups. Cool down. Start with stretching. So after start, it's that cool down. 3 to 15 minutes if we have time. That's going to be the static stretching where I'm holding a position for 15 to 60 seconds. Foam rolling here is excellent as well for rolling out any knots, any lactic acid. We just want to really create balance in our overall workout plan. Okay. And feel free again, if you have questions so far, put them in the chat. All right, types of strength training. Now I'm putting a little more emphasis into this because this is truly, I guess, where more of my background is, but also if there's there's a lot of takeaways I want to have people have from this, but if there's one major takeaway, regardless if we are 20 years old or 65 years old, or, if we have anyone past retirement age in here, maybe, or to our parents, our aging parents, our grandparents, up to, 85 to 100 years old, strength training is truthfully where we want to put a lot of our effort. Again, cardio is fantastic for the heart, for the lungs, for our cholesterol. It burns a little bit more calories during cardio, but to be independent as long as possible, to make sure we have the bone density, the muscle mass, so that at 80 years old, I can open up a pickle can and I don't have to be in an assisted living community. Strength training is going to be our way to get there. So there's different types of strength training, and then I have my general recommendation. This, again, solely dependent on our goals, whether we want to focus on endurance. I'll kind of bring light to kind of the professional realm so you get an idea what that looks like. It's not going to be the same for us, but endurance athlete, marathon runners, Ironman participants, hypertrophy. Think of that more as building lean muscle mass, bodybuilders. Just kind of a quick side note here. It is extremely hard to do what bodybuilders do. So if you're worried about getting bulky, putting on too much muscle mass, trust me, that will not be a problem unless you are a genetic miracle, which would be awesome, and you lucked out the genetic lottery. You're not going to have an issue with putting on too much muscle mass and getting bulky. I know that specifically is a concern for a lot of women that I've worked with in the past, and I just want to reassure you that's not going to happen. Someone who myself was working with, strength training for years consistently now. I'm not a very bulky person because that's never been within my goals to look like that. So it will not happen. Trust me. True strength. Think about more power lifter is in the professional realm. Again, it's not going to look like that for us here. And okay, between all the differences, when you come to, so you kind of have our exercise selection, then how do we navigate going through those exercises? Sets, repetitions, rest period, and then days a week. So sets and reps and rest. Those dictate specifically what area of the strength world we're trying to focus on: endurance, hypertrophy, or strength. So how fast is a muscle? How quickly can it repeat something effectively? So that's endurance. That's going to be 2 to 6 sets of anywhere between 12 to 16 or 12 to 30 or higher repetitions, and your rest period is going to be light, 30 seconds or less. That's HIIT style. That's boot camp. We're prioritizing muscle endurance. Yes, you can still increase body strength from doing that, but it is not as optimal as focusing on hypertrophy or strength. That's really, we're just building endurance for our muscle. Not saying we shouldn't do it, but just know that it is different. So Pilates, yoga, hot yoga, that really will not have a severe impact on our strength as much as other forms of resistance training. Hypertrophy, or that is the building of lean muscle mass. We want 2 to 6 sets, 7 to 10 repetitions with a rest period of 1 to 3 minutes. Now that is the rest time from endurance to hypertrophy skyrocketed, because endurance, how quickly can a muscle do something, rest for as little as possible and do it again. Hypertrophy, how many muscle fibers can I recruit actively pushing a weight with pretty high intensity? I want to rest, get back to a point where I can do the same recruitment for set 2, for set 3, for set 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. And then we have more of our true strength, again, that powerlifting, 2 to 6 sets 1 to 6 repetitions and a rest period of 2 to 5 minutes. You truthfully want your muscle to fully be recovered before we jump back in if we're doing quote unquote true strength work. Now, one thing to mention, I guess general recommendation, any exercise, 2 to 6 sets, 6 to 12, 6 to 15 repetitions with a rest time of 45 seconds to 2 minutes. You kind of do that. That is a wonderful general recommendation, my personal recommendation, or how I typically program for people in here. Otherwise, I've kind of quoted here for the reps 10 to 12. That's what I find is a good sweet spot. You're not working with weight that's too heavy, but we're also not pushing the weight 15 plus times where that is kind of just a monotonous activity that just kind of doesn't end. It really comes down to preference. Now, new research has been coming out to support that for hypertrophy or kind of building lean muscle mass, which again, doesn't matter our age, we should be prioritizing that. You can achieve that at 5 repetitions, 3 repetitions. You can achieve that at 30 repetitions, which like, but Colin, hypertrophy is 7 to 10, endurance is 12 to 30. Well, how does that make sense? It really comes down to looking at the top. The goal is to work muscles to complete fatigue. You want to have 0 to 3 repetitions left in reserve after every set. That's going to help induce muscle growth. If I were to do, so say personally, I can only do, 50 push-ups in a row, and that's it. I can't do 51, too heavy. If I were to do 10 push-ups, that's not really going to increase my overall body strength or increase my muscle mass. But if I were to do 3 sets at 45 push-ups or 48 push-ups, I'm not a failure, but I'm pretty close. There, I'm really getting into the range where you're going to start seeing a lot of benefits. So please, that's another takeaway. Stress your body within proper form, within proper comfort level, and that's where you're going to see the most progress and the most benefit long term. We really want to make sure, I want to personally make sure that you are utilizing your time efficiently, and that comes down to the intensity of our workouts. If I do 5 bodyweight squats, but I can do 100 pounds in addition to my body weight, there's a difference there between progress that we're going to see. So general takeaway here. Goals orient which area of strength, but general recommendation 2 to 6 sets, 6 to 12 repetitions, or 10 to 12, and then 45 to 2 minutes of rest. When it goes to day a week, if you're more a beginner, 2 to 3 days a week of non-consecutive training for strength training. Intermediate is 3 to 4 days a week, and then advanced can be 5 to 7 days a week of strength training. Yes, it is totally fine and acceptable to strength train 7 days a week. That's totally fine. It all comes down to your programming. You have to program properly so we can have adequate rest time as well. Only other thing to mention here, working to complete failure, complete fatigue, that's 0 to 3 repetitions left in reserve. For your progress over time for intensity, the reason I like that 10 to 12 there on the bottom is I like, instead of setting one set value, I like to give clients or people I work with a range. So I'm going to do a squat or a chest press for 10 to 12 repetitions. Now it's 10 to 12 because I want you to select a weight you can only do 10 times. And then I want you to do that weight 12 times. You're like, well, I can't. I can do it 10. Great. That's perfect. We're doing everything properly. But over time, as we build strength, that's called progressive overload. As I slowly increase the weight, right now, that I'd say 100 pounds per squat. I did 10 reps, and then a couple weeks later, I can do 12 repetitions now. Excellent. I'm not just going to stay at 100 pounds. I'm going to add 2.5 to 5 pounds, which will drop me back to 10 reps, and I just repeat the progress over and over again. So that's another big takeaway with the repetitions. For your intensity to see progress, we need to be working at a level that stresses our body. Within reason, of course, listen to your body at the end of the day. Okay, recovery. So I talked a lot about how we implement exercise, how we structure that, but recovery, rest days, how does that work? So reflecting on areas for our recovery, we want to make sure that we're providing enough body with recovery. Now that there's a couple ways to approach recovery. We have more the physical side of taking time off of rest for that. If you're doing resistance training at more of a beginner level, our muscles will be fully recovered between 24 to 48 hours. So if you are on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday strength training program, that's perfect. You can do a full body workout all 3 of those days, and you will not be hindered by your muscles' ability to recover. They're going to be recovered. They might be sore, but they're recovered and they're ready to go. If you're doing aerobic training, your body needs at least 1 day of rest or active recovery. So if you're doing a hard cardio workout, stair stepper, running, jogging, biking, rowing, swimming, your off day could be, light walking, stretching, trying to still involve activity within your off days. Yeah, gentle walk, light bike ride. And then that's how you'd approach more of that aerobic training. You really want to make sure that you're reflecting on how your body feels, though. So prioritizing that you're getting enough. So that's the other part. So physical allocation of time to our program. Then the other side is going to be nutrition in our body. Make sure we're getting adequate sleep. Make sure we're getting adequate water, adequate protein. If we don't have enough protein, that's going to be the main building block of our muscles, and we're going to have a hard time recovering or growing if we're not having any sufficient protein in our body. So make sure we get enough water. Make sure we get enough protein. I know we're really not talking about this, but for my recommendation for you, water, half your body weight in ounces, add 10 to 20 ounces on top of that for every hour we're active. And then protein, eat anywhere between 0.6 to 1.3 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And you don't have to have a goal weight in mind if weight loss is a goal. You don't have to have one. But if you do, eat that many grams of protein. And that's a good starting point. And sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night. Really, really, really make sure we're prioritizing sleep. That's another big one of the takeaways from today is if we are consistently getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep, we're not going to see the recovery. We're not going to see the progress we're looking for. At a minimum, 7 hours of sleep on average. It should be higher than that, though. Yes, when the body is fully fueled with water, food, rest, you're not only going to be more healthy, but you're going to be able to move with higher intensity when we're able to push our body a little bit more effectively. All right, so a little bit of home exercises and equipment. So when programming, also think about that. Depending if you're a fully remote employee or if you're in person, those in person do have access to the fitness center here, open 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Otherwise, maybe we don't have a gym by us or we don't have the funds for a gym. That's okay. We can do a lot of stuff at home, but still reflect back to our goals and that intensity. So if I have no equipment, I only have a yoga mat and that's it. That's fine. I just need to do more body weight strength or endurance exercises. We need to find a way to challenge ourselves with the equipment we have available to us. So if I have no equipment, no access to a gym, and I personally don't want to pick up any exercise equipment, which is okay, you don't have to. It's going to be a little more challenging for sure, but we can still make that work. So if I'm doing, incline push-ups, I go up to the couch and I'm doing push-ups. I still want to get to 0 to 3 reps left in reserve. Maybe if I get super strong, that might have to be 45 repetitions or more, and that's okay. That's just what we're working with. You can always combo things. So say if, again, I don't have dumbbells, but I buy a cheap $30 or less exercise band set, perfect. That just jumped up our intensity of our exercises a whole lot. Now, instead of just doing normal push-ups, I wrap a band around my arms and back. Now it's a resistance band push-up. And now I can maybe have 3 resistance bands on there. So now it's an even more challenging push-up every single time. Whether you're using an exercise ball, an online YouTube workout, whatever it is, wherever we find a stability ball, jump rope, a bicycle, treadmill, elliptical, rower, those are some good pieces of at-home equipment that we might be able to purchase or pick up, which can take our gym level up a notch. But we can hit sufficient workout even without any of that equipment. All right, a couple extra things here, and then we're going to jump back to exercise selection. Actually, I'll do that right now, and then we'll go back to some extra tips I have for the end. Okay, exercise selection. So, as scary as the world of exercise is, exercises are, yes, you might find there's the most optimal exercise. It really comes down to a few things. Am I fueling my body? Am I using the rest for what goals I am orienting my program around? Am I orienting my program correctly? And then pick from the 5 areas. When we are selecting exercises, this is where I guess it might be a little bit confusing for most people, but stressing the muscles in any form is what's going to lead to the most progress. Now, that being said, we want to work on our mobility. We want to work on our range of motion. If I do a chest press or a push-up, and so say a push-up, great example of that. A lot of people find it challenging to do push-ups, and I totally understand. It's a hard movement. So if I am on my toes and I do a push-up, ideally we want to work all the way down where we're getting a deep stretch to the chest because the muscles love to be stretched. So with any exercise, we're trying to stretch our muscles. For a core exercise, I want to stretch my muscle. I want my legs to go far away from me. I want my back to go far above to really stretch the core. For my bicep, I want my arm to come all the way down. I don't want to do half curls here because I'm missing out a lot of deep stretch all the way at the bottom. So for a push-up, we modify our intensity. If I can't get all the way down in a normal push-up, I drop to my knees. If I can't get, even with a knee push-up, say I only get here about halfway down or less, I need to modify up one more time to an incline push-up on a couch, on a bench, on a table, so that I can get all the way down a nice deep stretch. Now, if we have shoulder injuries, knee injuries, hip, back injuries, totally different conversation. Please talk to me about that. I'd be happy to give you modifications for that. But if we have no injuries and we're good to go, then by all means, we want to actively stretch that muscle. Of course, listen to your body. So exercise selection for our chest movements. Well, it's a pressing movement. So if I had to give you two, chest press and a chest fly. Chest press for the compound, the multi-joint movement, chest fly for more of that accessory. So a normal press and a normal fly. But there's so many different variations: incline chest press, decline chest press, machine, bench, dumbbell. At the end of the day, consistency is what matters. Pick an exercise, stick with it, try to progressively, overload, and we can essentially stay in one program for a very long time, almost forever, until you stop seeing progress, or if we get bored. That's really the only time you want to switch it up. Now, there is little differences to that, but I'd be happy to answer that at another time. For our back, prioritize a pulling down motion. So that's going to be our lats, long back muscle. We want a full stretch of the arm, driving down to work those lats. For a mid back, rhomboids and traps, I want my arms to go forward, nice deep stretch, retract those shoulders, and drive back. So there would be a lat pull down or a pull down variation and a mid row variation. For our shoulder, there's going to be three of them. We have our front, middle, and head, or the anterior, medial, and posterior head of our deltoid. So I want to do like a shoulder press to work that front head. I want to do a lateral raise to work our medial head. I want to do a rear delt fly, working our back to work the posterior head of our deltoid. Quads. You can hit that in a normal squat. Otherwise, my preferred favorite right now is a walking lunge. If you're totally trying to isolate just the quad, though, you're going to have to do, or quad and hamstring, a leg curl or leg extension. Leg extension for the quad, leg curl for the hamstring. For the hamstrings, again, if you want to isolate it, leg extension, an RDL. If you're trying full legs, walking lunges, split squats, sumo squats. Sumo squats will prioritize a little bit more of the hamstrings, glutes. Normal squats is going to be more of a well-rounded leg. For the glutes, if you want to isolate it, hip thrust, glute kickback. If you want to work in anything, it's going to be worked in a lot of those exercises I said that are full leg exercises. Hip abductor, adduction. That's only when our legs go out and in. So if we put a band on the knee, we can work on our legs' ability to squeeze through the hips going out. In is a lot more challenging, and I know that's kind of exercise that we don't always have, but bands is an excellent way to work that, or finding an ability to allow our hips to squeeze inward with a band going out. And then calf raises, that's going to be the one and done for there. Of course, different variations of everything. Core. If I'd pick a favorite 2 or 3, I would personally, one, for stabilizer. So the Pallof press is one of my favorites. Take a band, take a cable machine, set it up at arm height, bring it out, set your shoulders, brace the core, think those 3 pillars, and you're holding here for like a plank, 30 to 45 seconds. You're working on stabilizing the spine, not allowing the hips or shoulders to rotate. That's wonderful for overall working all 3 of those areas. Otherwise, focus again on that stretch. Something like a full extend reach or a leg raise reach. Hands above, feet below, fully extended, then allow the legs to come up in a leg raise, reach for the toes, and roll down. It gets an ab crunch in there. It gets a full stretch in there. That's an excellent exercise. And then pair that with something that twists. Plank twist, a Russian twist, side plank dip. So you're working more of those side obliques. And then you can combo moves as well. Okay, I know we're getting close to the end. I want to save time for questions. So extra tips from me. Baking time, that's a big one. That's a really big one. Circle back to your why. Why does your physical health matter? Why do we want to improve our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health? Will it benefit us? Will it benefit our families? Will it benefit our work? If you are not prioritizing it and you realize you need to, unfortunately, if no time is allocated to it, progress will not be made. So we need to get realistic with ourselves. We need to set the expectation of what do we want to prioritize at this point in our current life, and then accept what follows with that, whether it's prioritizing it or putting it on the back burner because you just can't prioritize it right now. And that's okay. We have to be realistic. But if we are able to make time, or how to make time, can we get up 30 minutes later? Can we want to try to make exercise into our normal daily routine? Another kind of gold standard for myself, or what I try to recommend for coaching. If you can get active for 30 minutes of dedicated movement, that might be 3 10-minute walks. That might be one bout of 30-minute movements. That might be a stretching. That might be core cardio, whatever it is. Try to get active for at least 30 minutes a day. I was like, whoa, that's a lot for right now. That's okay. Start with one day and then work up to 2, work up to 3, and then gradually try to get into a routine where we are doing something dedicated for 30 minutes every day. Make sure we don't overcommit. I just said, if you're doing 7 days a week of 30 minutes, you're going to burn out and it's not going to be successful. You need to be realistic with where you are right now in order to make sustainable progress long term. You have to continue to evaluate your life, your goals, and revise your plan. Your goal is not going to stay the same forever. Your action plan or strategy will not stay the same forever. Things come up, whether there's death in the family, whether there's a promotion, whether we have kids, whether there's new expectations around the house. Life changes. We have to be able to be flexible and adapt with that. And I guess I'm jumping to the last bullet point here, but be forgiving with yourself. It is totally okay to modify a routine. It's totally okay to have some aspects take the back burner for a little bit, as long as that does not become the habit. If we consistently start neglecting our health, it will come back to bite us long term, but we need to be realistic about how we can get back there, because it's not going to happen overnight. So yes, be realistic about what we can achieve. Make sure you make it fun. If you hate exercise, you're like, oh, but I got to do it. You have to figure out some way to make it fun, whether it's a group class, a video, a workout partner. Find something that you enjoy or that you can tolerate, would be a better way to put it, if you truly hate exercise. Make sure you be creative, be resourceful. There's a lot of great online content out there. Now, I would be hesitant with listening or agreeing to everything you hear online with fitness influencers. There's a lot of misconception, even with people who say they're educated. So please, if you have any other questions, obviously come back to me. I'll wrap this up here in a little bit so we can answer questions. But if something pops up, you're like, hey, Colin, here's an article. Here's this influencer said this. Is this true? Send it to me. I have an educated background in this, so I'm certified as an exercise physiologist through the ACSM. I'm certified for nutrition, and I have a bachelor's degree in exercise sports science, health and human performance. So I'm educated. We'll be very happy to walk you through the current research. Reward yourself for good behavior. Yes, the end goal is that we do this consistently and I'm able to live a happier, more fulfilled life, but that's not going to happen overnight. That's 60 years out. So reward yourself along the way. As we go through and celebrate the small wins. It's not always about the end goal. It's not about the weight lost, the weight gained, or the consistency. That's part of it, sure. But, allow yourself to appreciate the hard work you're putting in. Okay, other resource available to you. Hinge Health is free PT that you have access to. Lyra is a wonderful access that you have access to as a Myonix employee for mental health, mindfulness, LOL. Cassandra is the behavioral health therapist and on-site clinic. Here in the fitness center, you have access to me, the fitness center, personal exercise programs, or I can help make you a movement plan for you or your family, fitness assessments, consultations, check-ins, group classes. We're open from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, and it's $1 a day to utilize those services I just mentioned. You only pay as you use. Okay. I know I talked for a long time. I hope I got through everything you were interested in listening. So all right, open up questions. Any questions about the content here? Feel free to raise your hand, put something in the chat, or reach out to me privately on Teams, and we can set up a time to talk more about how I can develop, or how you can develop a plan for yourself, and then I can kind of coach you through ways that I would modify it to make it a little bit stronger and more realistic to where you're currently at. But thank you so much for joining, and have a wonderful rest of your day.